What's up guys, it's Brian here. Back in 2011, LEGO released the third version ever of the playset scale Millennium Falcon. I ended up getting that set around 2012-2013. It very quickly became one of my favorite sets of all time. I loved all of the features of that old Millennium Falcon. I loved the minifigure selection. It was still the perfect lineup of original trilogy characters, but there was always something about that Millennium Falcon that felt off. A lot of it had to do with the proportions. There was always a lot of inaccuracies with system scale Falcons until very recently, notably the mandibles in the front and all of the gaps in all of the way that that it opened up so you could access the play features, as well as lots of outdated play features. Within the ship itself, the cockpit was at a weird angle, so all of those were problems with the older Millennium Falcons. So a couple years ago, I decided, okay, what if I just take the 2011 Millennium Falcon, do some modifications to it? Maybe buy the 2015 Falcon and modify it like that. But then that idea kind of passed. 2019 rolls around and LEGO releases really the best version of the system scale Falcon that they possibly could have. The 2019 Rise of Skywalker Millennium Falcon. This set fixed a lot of the basic cosmetic issues that the older Falcons were suffering, especially with the placement of the cockpit, as well as the overall silhouette and the shape of the mandibles in the front, and they closed all the gaps. They figured out a new way to open up all the flaps of the Falcon while having less gaps throughout the whole thing. Now, I was originally planning on skipping that set because I had a Millennium Falcon, and I can't really justify spending lots of money to buy a second version of a large vehicle in Star Wars. So I scrapped that idea as well. I just said, okay, that'll just be a dream of mine. But now that it's 2022, and that Falcon was still available on the shelf, I told myself, I kind of have to jump on it. It's on sale, it's only $120 at lots of major retailers. I have the old Falcon to use pieces from to modify this new one because it does have a perfect footprint, and I've seen lots of people make really cool modifications to this thing. So what if I finally did this project? Well, I took the leap and I bought the 2019 Millennium Falcon. And I gotta say, I was really impressed with the overall set. However, I knew there was still a lot of modifications that I wanted to make, and that's what this video is all about. So enough of me talking to the camera, and I'm gonna show you what I've done to the 2019 Millennium Falcon to give it UCS quality of design and UCS level of detailing within the playset scale. I hope you guys enjoy. Let me show you what I've done to the Falcon. So here is the original 2019 Falcon with all of its really cool details and all closing up all the gaps on the outside of the ship, and the very good transition and the silhouette down there is all very nice. But here is what I've done to the Falcon, and I think this thing came out very, very good. I will go through each modification that I made. This could be a very long video. You've already seen how long it is, but you can just see the overall shape and size just works. All the details have been either added or enhanced. I added lots of different things. I changed a lot of things I didn't like, and I made some overall modifications to it just to make it look so much better. I really wanted this thing to give off like a UCS style amount of detail, and the correct shaping as well, which had to be done with the front, especially with these mandibles, making them thicker. And then a lot of the other things were just minor cosmetic enhancements that I wanted to make in order to make this more like my personal Falcon. So I did keep most of the structure for this Falcon, but I had to change a couple major things like up front, and then just overhaul a lot of the details. And let's get straight into it. I'm gonna start with the front up here because that is where the most work went into. So as I said, a lot of the major overhauls to the set really came in the front because there was lots of weird gaps along the front in between the opening flap and the mandibles, and they just weren't thick enough. That was always a problem with these Millennium Falcons, was that the front mandibles were not thick enough. They have to be, in order to be accurate to the Falcon, relatively the same thickness going across as this little panel going into the docking port over there. Had to be relatively the same thickness. But so that was a pretty simple modification. The way that this was done originally was just the angled plates, a single layer of brick, and then the angled plates, and then whatever detail on top that you wanted to throw in there. But all I had to do was simply add another layer of bricks into the mandible. I'm making it sound a lot more simple than it was. I had to do lots of interior structure within these. So these are pretty dense with pieces instead of relatively hollow like the last one. The spring-loaded shooter function doesn't work anymore because I just wanted to take that out, and I wanted to add some detail up here as well. But that was a big first step. It was figuring out exactly how to get the mandibles to be size accurate. And that's what it looks like from the side view. A lot better looking, and it just overall, it just changes the whole shape of the Falcon and makes it look more accurate. So what I did up here, you can see some of the details along here. A lot of the details on the bottom layer were from the original set, and then whatever I added on top is just new stuff. I kept some of the stuff on the front. I kept the, oh no, I think these might have been studs in the original. I changed them out to plates. But anyway, you can see all the details in there. And then on top, I wanted to add some more details because these were just plain plates. The only details were these circle tiles. So I wanted to add some details to this set. You'll also see throughout this whole build, I did add whatever details I liked from the 2011 Falcon into this one. Like these little sticker detailings in here that were the maintenance access ports. Those were on the 2011 Millennium Falcon. I really like those stickers, so I wanted to put them into this Falcon. So I put them one plate deep, and you can just see all the details on the top up here. I went through a lot of iterations of this. I'm very, very happy with how it came out. Filled in some of the gaps down there a little bit because this was just like plates and boring. And so that is the mandibles up front. Very happy with it. And I'm very happy that even in the original set, these little sloped grill pieces were here to make the transition smooth. Did have to add a brick into there though, in order to make it just seal up this hatch, seal up that gap just a little bit. That was another thing that I wanted to really do with this Falcon, was seal up as many of the gaps as humanly possible while still having it be able to be accessible. So as you can see, there's no gaps along the front here at all. It's all filled in very well. And as well as up here with this panel that hinges open, I've filled in these gaps over here just to make it flow a little bit better, as well as up top just a little bit, because otherwise I did try in all these little gap areas to put pieces, but it was interfering with the mechanism. So that's the front of the Falcon with the mandibles. So let me just go into a bunch of the other details of this thing. So staying in the front section for now, I did add a couple pieces to the radar dish just to make it look a little better. In the original build for the set, I'm just gonna pull this over here, it was just a blank dish, and I thought that looked pretty boring. So I wanted to add more details to make that more accurate, and so I added an extra dish that has all the holes in it, as well as one of the inverted dishes as well. And you can just see all the details I added in comparison to what it used to look like over there. This whole panel was pretty boring, and I wanted to spruce it up quite a bit by adding lots of different, whether it's changing out the colors of certain things or just adding in other details as well. So now another huge challenge for me was this panel in particular, and I'll show you why in just a second. Because in the old Falcon, in this version obviously, the panels open up, just like in all the other versions. And you'll get a sneak peek of the inside while I open up the panels here. But this one still opens up like normal, as well as this one. But this guy had an awkward little hinge over here. And in order to make the mandibles thicker, that whole function had to be scrapped. So this hinge does not fold open anymore. It lifts up, just like on the UCS version, that there are just pins connected into Technic holes. That was very hard to get this all lined up properly so that it would stay in place, first of all, and line up perfectly to be here. I was getting them where the holes were here. I would be getting it where it was sitting here or like down here. It was very, very challenging. There are some plates with jumper studs in there holding this whole mechanism together. But that's pretty much what I had to do. Very, very happy with how this works. Obviously, I wish they were connected for the sake of my purest Lego purposes, but this is the technique that they use on the UCS Falcon. And so you can kind of see in there, the pins just kind of go into the holes. Not sure exactly how well you can see that. It stays in place perfectly because there are 2 pins instead of 1. The design I had originally was just 1 pin, and then I was trying to figure out over here, all right, how do I anchor it in place? But giving it 2 pins over there made it very nice. And it all just closes up perfectly, and you wouldn't even know that this panel's not really technically attached. So a big challenge that I'm very happy I was able to overcome using a technique that is in the UCS set. And yeah, I'm just very happy with how this all came out. And you can see actually while this is open, all the details up here that just help close up the gaps, as well as on this guy as well. And over here, you can see all the details back here that kind of just help with the gaps being closed up. I used a whole lot of these little slopes, these little guys. They were on a pick-a-brick wall that I got recently. So you can see all of these little guys throughout the whole thing. They're pretty much everywhere. So I'm gonna put this back on in real time just so you can kind of see how it works. And I'm doing it one-handed, trying to get a good angle for the film. Closes right back up, just like the original set. Along the side, I wanted to close up a lot of the gaps along the exterior border, whatever you want to call it. The original set had lots of plates along the side and all of those little gaps in between all of these little subsections, these little sub-assemblies that connect throughout. So I added a whole bunch of these little slope pieces, and I took out the larger plates and added in some other little details where I could to make it flow all the way around nicer. I'm not sure if these two over here are accurate because I think there are actually gaps on the ship itself, but I tried it without and it just looked better like this. I did try to close up some of these gaps over here, but the gaps are just a little bit too small to have some good pieces for, and I also didn't have a couple of critical pieces, but I just really wanted to work with what I had for this thing. Going all the way around the back, you can see as well, just filling in those gaps along the outer rim. Outer rim, there's a nice Star Wars pun for you. And making that those sections just flow better. And so that's kind of the exterior down there. The landing gear was another huge cosmetic upgrade that it was one of the last things I did to the Falcon, but it really just made it look 1,000 times better. Was adding semi-accurate looking landing gear. These are a little funky, but again, I was working with what I had because the Millennium Falcon, the actual Millennium Falcon, has 7 landing gear. It's got the 3 in the front and then 2 on the rear of each side. And the 2 are kind of like next to each other, or like back to back. But the one in the front is just kind of connected with a brick like that. The 2 that are on the front there are connected with Technic just like so. There's a nice angle for you. And you can just kind of see how I built the landing gear as well. See how that foot's put together. It's not the most accurate thing in the world, but I had to, the challenge was finding 7 of each piece that would fit for the landing gear. I had a lot of designs that I liked, but I couldn't use because I couldn't find 7 of that specific piece. The ones on the back, I did cheat a little bit because I tried to make 2 of this landing gear, put them back to back, but it was too long. It was kind of, when you looked at the Falcon from the top, the landing gear was kind of sticking out the back, which is definitely not accurate. So I just kind of took the design, shrunk it down a little bit, and made it into like 1.5 landing gear for each section back there. But that was really, really a game changer when looking at this Falcon and looking at it as a display model. The landing gear really did a lot for it, which I really wasn't expecting. So very, very happy with how the landing gear came out. Moving up toward the top, another couple of enhancements in the back. Let's do the back panels first, actually. I really just wanted to add some detail back here, and the other big thing I wanted to change, which is not really a big thing, but it was these little fins back here. On this set, it just used 1x2 sloped bricks, and I thought that was incredibly boring. I originally intended to swap them out with the little fin pieces, like the shark fin pieces, that the older Millennium Falcon actually used. The 2011 Falcon used these little shark fin pieces. But when I put them on this set, it just kind of looked a little out of place and wonky. Looked good on the 2011 Falcon, but not on this one. So I went to work trying to design something to come up with the fins for the back, and this is what I came up with. It took me a while to actually narrow down this design, but I really like how it came out, and it just adds another level of detail that just leaving these little bricks was just so lame for such a highly detailed Falcon that I was trying to achieve. I thought these looked a lot better. Moving up to this top section up here. On the original Falcon, the original 2019 Falcon, it used these pieces, these sloped plates, as the top sections up here, which looked nice from the top. It gave a nice sleek angled look, but it was these anti-studs that made the whole thing look really bad and really gappy right along this edge. Let me see. Yeah, you can see it on the instruction manual. Look at that gap right there and all those little teeth. I really didn't like that. Again, I liked the way these pieces were used. I just didn't love that. So I took these out and added some other pieces just to make it look nice and thick. And I had to add a slope under there to close up that gap a little bit more. because otherwise you'd just be able to see right into the whole Falcon. Instead of there being a little gap, there would have been a large gap. So that's basically the back there. You can see some other detail enhancements compared to what was on the old one. The next section I'll take a look at with you guys is the top, where the gunner turret is. Now, on the original set, I didn't really have a problem with the gunner turret. The only thing I really don't like is those loose turntable pieces where it just kind of rotates freely when you pick up the Falcon and move it slightly. The whole thing goes like, and it rotates the whole thing. Didn't like that at all. So I wanted to change that up just so that it would stay still, especially when you opened it and it didn't fall to the back. Really wanted to change that. So I went to work on this. Actually, the first thing I did was take this giant circular tile and replace it with the one from the 2011 Falcon, because the one on the 2011 Falcon had this nice sticker on the back to add some little details. And I just have always loved this sticker. So it was the same piece on the newer set. They just didn't include that sticker. So I swapped that one out with the 2011 version. And then I went to town trying to work on the turret. And I think I came up with a really cool design, actually using the same Technic piece that, if you have the 2019 Falcon, was the hinge piece on this front panel. And so now I just took that piece, added it back there. It's a little stiff with the Technic connection, but it still does a full 360 back here. And you can angle it however you'd like. That was what I really wanted to do with it. That does come out sometimes, but it's not that big a deal. So now look, if somebody's looking out the window here, they can see the gunner turret. I also really wanted to keep that sticker piece in there because that's a very cool sticker. The other thing, now we're going to take a look at the inside a little bit, because this is probably the part of the Falcon I'm the most pleased with. In the previous Falcons, they did have 2 gunner seats. This was the build that was in this particular set. It was one of these plates over here instead of an actual plate, but I used this plate in the build. And I just thought that's just so lame. I want to make something that looks better. So I tried making a design that had 2 gunner seats, more detailed, but that didn't really work. So I decided I'm just gonna make one really detailed gunner seat that slides in and out, and I'm incredibly happy with how this sub build came out. It looks so good, in my opinion. It was very hard to get this build to work so that it actually fits a minifigure and then slides in with the given dimensions and then also closes all the way, because that does close flush all the way. So this is the design I came up with. I'm very happy with it. You got the handlebars right here. You got the little targeting computer. I was gonna try to make the chair swivel a little bit, but it wasn't quite working. And let me see, I got a minifigure here. I got Finn from 2015, just to show you what it looks like with the figure in there. And I'm very happy. He can't exactly grab the handlebars, but I don't really care about that since I hate taking minifigure hands on and off of handlebars. So very, very pleased with this overall design. Very happy with how it came out. And it really is one of my favorite parts about this Falcon, is just this detailed gunner seat. And I know there's only one, but that's fine with me. And I know that it also sits backwards, but again, I'm just happy that it fits and that the detail is there. And it looks a lot more accurate than the little things that they were throwing in the older Falcons. So there is the updated gunner seat. And there's pretty much the entire exterior of the Falcon, aside from a couple cosmetic upgrades. Also, these stickers were on the hyperdrive of the 2011 Falcon. I'm not sure if any of you saw those stickers or were wondering what they were, but those are from the 2011 Falcon's hyperdrive on the interior. But that's pretty much it for the outside. Let's take a look at the interior, and I'm going to start with the cockpit up here, actually. So what I thought that would make this Falcon perfect is that if I could somehow fit 4 figures into the cockpit. I was not able to do that. I looked online, there's somebody who made a great tutorial on YouTube about how to fit 4 figures into the cockpit of this ship, and involves taking apart the entire section up here, which I was willing to do, but then in the end, the cosmetics of it, I didn't like the way that it looked. There was too many hinges around here, and I didn't personally like the way it came out. I love that that mod exists, and I'm so happy that some people have been able to do that, but for the purposes of this set and this model, I didn't want to ruin the look of it up here, because I do like the way that it looks. I had to add some plates or some bricks back there just to fill in some gaps that you could see over there. But this Falcon does only fit 2 people, and I did make a couple of enhancements in order to just give it some extra computers, and you can kind of see what I did in here. You got the little steering stick that Han Solo uses, as well as this computer came in the 2019 set. The one on the other side came in the 2011 set. Incorporated both of those into this build. You got the little levers so you can punch it, a couple little dials and buttons and control panels so that Chewie can use it as well. I do realize that they are on opposite sides that they're supposed to, and this morning I realized that, and I tried to just mirror this whole design, but the shield, the cockpit wasn't really fitting on because it has to squeeze a little bit to get into there, and it was getting caught on the handlebar piece. And I really wanted to keep the design the way it was, so I'm just gonna leave it mirrored. It's gonna bother me just a little bit, but you know what? That's really okay. And speaking of which, while I'm up here, another major enhancement I had to make was up here. This little wedge plate that you see back there wasn't in the original set. It was a huge gap back there. You can kind of see it a little bit back here. It looks way, way worse in person. So I had to close up that gap first and foremost, and that is why adding the little bits of detail up there helps. It makes the cockpit a little snug, but it still fits. The actual cockpit piece still fits on and off, which is what I cared about the most. So let's take a look at the rest of the interior now, because there's some pretty cool details that I added. So like I showed you before, except for this one panel, the set still does open up completely just the way that it did on the actual set itself. But as you can already see, there are a lot more details in this interior space than there were originally. We're gonna start up front, where some things didn't really change, like this chair. I really like this chair design, so I left that the way it was. I tried to make it so that it wouldn't swivel, so that it wouldn't make this noise, but I just couldn't really figure that out without making it swivel. I added a couple little details back there around the stickers that were already included in the set. I plugged up some holes that were over here with some paneling and extra controls, as well as some like little pipings that you can kind of see in the actual Falcon itself. There's what the design back there looks like. This little box right here is just kind of covering up the little holes where the panel goes in with the pegs. It's just kind of covering it up back there, and it's in an awkward place, but I had really no choice. I added a little indication of a door back there to get into the Falcon's cockpit. It's just a couple black tiles on a little panel, so it's not actually a door or anything. I added some tiles along the floor just to give it some more detail. I don't think I added anything back there. The only thing I did change was I took away the swivel on this chair, so now it's a jumper tile instead of what it was, which was a swivel, which I don't really like those turntables. Let's see, down here, nothing too crazy. Added some paneling over there to cover up that hole, and I added some grill pieces along the bottom, and you can swing around this way. Some more tiles down there. This is where the Smuggler's compartment was. Instead of it hinging open now, I actually have it just so that it comes out just like so, because with all the details I added to the hyperdrive, I couldn't fit the hinge in anymore. As you can see along the back panels, I added some little tan paneling to give kind of the indication of what the inside of the Falcon looks like, because it does have the tan walls that go all around it, but there's no way to fit that kind of detail into a set this small. So I added those little panels back there to give it the indication and some more continuity of just having the tan kind of go all the way around the Falcon itself. There's what I did to the hyperdrive, just added some details all around it, added some floor detailing as well. And let's see, I added this whole section over here because for some reason this whole thing was just totally blank. It was just the Technic pin that was holding in the escape pod piece, or the, the smuggler's hatch piece. So I added all of that little detail in there to make just some more access ports. I've removed the kitchen entirely because I don't know why there was a kitchen in the Millennium Falcon. Makes sense, I guess, in universe, but I wanted to get rid of that and add some crates for storage and everything. Added some more floor details. This pipe was already here, but it was in a different spot. Added some more wiring and piping back there, just to give it some extra like lived-in life. As well as, let's see, I did add some grills down there. The door still opens and closes the way it did in the actual set, but since this scale of a Falcon is way too small for this door to be functional, I just kind of left it there and I didn't make any changes to it at all. I think it looks just fine. But overall, that's the interior of the Falcon and what I have done to make this look more lived in and detailed and just able to be played around with. It was very important to me to leave a lot of studded space. I could have tiled this whole thing if I wanted to, but then it wouldn't be playable or easy to display figures on. So I wanted to leave a lot of studs exposed to be able to pose minifigures. So there you have it. That's the inside of this Millennium Falcon. If you've made it this far in the video, I know this has been a very long-winded video showing all the details of this model. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. This was such a fun project to undertake, was taking a set that I think had some really good structure to it and lots of really good bones, and just adding on to it and making it really just enhanced and making it more accurate and detailed. And I've always wanted to have an accurate, detailed Millennium Falcon since I know I'm never going to get the $800 UCS one. I wanted to give this as much detail as humanly possible so that when you see it from afar, you look at it and you think, wow, that's a great model of the Millennium Falcon. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted this to catch your eye in the same way that the UCS model does. And it was very sad to take apart the 2011 Falcon. I'll show you right now. This is all that's left of it. From everything that I took off of it and just tried to do other things with, that's it. That's all we got left. And there's not a lot left at all. However, it was worth it to get this model out of it. I'm very happy with how this came out. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. I was able to do this also because of a picker cup that I gotten, as well as some other sets that I broke down when I went to New York recently, and I actually took back a lot of my pieces. So I have most of my pieces with me now, which is good news for those of you who are staying this long and care about all that stuff. I have my pieces now, so I can start doing some smaller mocks now. But, so just like this one, very happy to have my pieces to be able to do more projects like this. So again, thank you guys very much for watching. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed. I'd really appreciate it. Leave me a comment down below, and be sure to go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. Thanks again for watching. This has been Brian from Watermelon Studios. Peace out, guys.